Hey everyone, and welcome. Ready to dive deep into some fascinating AI research with me today?
Always ready to dive in.
Awesome. So today we're looking at large language models, LLMs, those AI systems that can do, well, just about anything these days, write code, translate languages, even compose poetry. Pretty amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, LLMs are really pushing the boundaries of what AI can do.
Exactly. And get this, we're going to unpack a brand new technique that's shaking things up in the world of LLMs, a surprising discovery about how to make these AI systems even smarter.
Intrigued already. Tell me more.
Well, it's called Self-MoA.
Self-MoA. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
Most people aren't. It's pretty cutting edge. But to understand self-MoA, we first need to talk about MoA, mixture of agents. Have you heard of that?
Ah, MoA, yes. I've come across that in some recent papers. It's been gaining a lot of traction as a way to boost LLM performance.
Right. Basically, it's like putting together a team of AI experts, each with its own strengths, to tackle a problem together.
Yeah, it's kind of like imagine a group of specialized doctors, each with their own area of expertise, all coming together to diagnose a patient. They each offer their insights, and then a lead physician considers all of their opinions before making a final decision.
Perfect analogy. So you're essentially creating an AI dream team. You get a bunch of different LLMs, each specialized in a particular area, and then they all work together to come up with a solution. Sounds pretty effective, right?
You'd think so, right? But here's the thing. Some new research is suggesting that this dream team approach might not always be the best strategy.
Wait, really? That's surprising. I would have thought that more diverse perspectives would always lead to better outcomes, especially with AI.
That's what a lot of people thought, but these researchers at Princeton University are, well, they're kind of challenging that assumption.
Okay, I'm definitely sensing a plot twist here. So, what exactly did these Princeton researchers find?
Well, they did a whole bunch of experiments testing out MoA with different LLMs and different tasks. And what they discovered was that in many cases, it's actually better to focus on the quality of a single AI rather than trying to create this diverse team of specialists.
Hold on, you're saying that one really good LLM could outperform a whole team of like decent LLMs?
That's exactly what they found, and this is where self-MoA comes in.
Okay, finally getting to the heart of the matter. So, with Self-MoA, instead of having multiple different LLMs, you just have one really good one and you give it multiple tries at the problem.
Precisely. It's like, imagine asking a world-renowned chef to create a dish multiple times, each time with a slightly different technique or ingredient. And then you take the best elements of each attempt and combine them to create the ultimate culinary masterpiece.
I love that analogy. So we're basically letting the LLM refine its own work instead of relying on input from other LLMs.
Exactly. It's all about leveraging the power of a single high-performing LLM.
But I'm still a bit hung up on this whole quality over diversity thing. I mean, isn't the whole point of MoI to get those different perspectives, those unique insights from specialized LLMs? Are you saying there's no benefit to that at all?
Not necessarily. The researchers did find that there are some situations where mixing different LLMs can be beneficial, but it really depends on the overall quality of those individual models.
Okay, so walk me through that. When does mixing LLMs actually work well?
Well, it seems to work best when the models you're combining have a similar level of performance. If you have one model that's significantly weaker than the others, it can actually drag down the performance of the whole team. It's kind of like,
Like that saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch.
exactly. Even in the world of AI, a weak link can bring down the whole system. And that's what's so intriguing about self-MoA. It sidesteps that issue entirely by focusing on refining the output of a single high-performing LLM. You're essentially maximizing the potential of that one really good model.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not that diversity is inherently bad, it's just that it can backfire if the quality isn't there across the board.
Right. And the results they got with self-MoA are pretty impressive. They tested it against traditional MoA on a whole range of benchmarks, those standardized tests for LLMs.
Yeah, the ones that measure things like general knowledge, coding skills, problem solving, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And self-MoA consistently outperformed traditional MoA across these diverse tasks. For example, on a challenging benchmark called Alpaca Evil 2.0, which tests how well an LLM can follow instructions, self-MoA achieved get this, a 6.6% improvement over traditional MoA.
Wow, a 6.6% improvement just by letting a single LLM refine its own answers? That's a pretty significant boost. I'm starting to see why this self-MoA thing is causing such a stir.
It's definitely a game changer, but, it also raises some interesting questions about the whole quality over diversity concept. Like, could this apply to other areas of life as well?
That is a fascinating question. Maybe we'll save that for a later discussion. For now, let's stick with self-MoA. I'm curious to know how it actually works in practice. What are the nuts and bolts of this technique?
Well, one of the big challenges with LLMs is their limited context length. They can only process a certain amount of information at once.
Right, like trying to cram an entire encyclopedia into your brain at once. It's just too much information overload.
Exactly. And when you're combining multiple outputs, even from the same LLM, it can create a real bottleneck. So to address this, the researchers developed a variation of Self-MoA called Self-MoA seg, which works sequentially. It basically breaks the task down into smaller, more manageable chunks so the LLM can process the information more effectively.
Got it. So instead of overwhelming the LLM with a ton of data all at once, Self-MoA kind of guides it through the problem step by step.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And because it works sequentially, it can handle a much larger volume of LLM output, so you end up with more refined, more nuanced results.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense now. We've talked about how Self-MoA can make LLMs smarter and more efficient, but I'm also thinking about, the bigger picture here. What are the implications of this research, like for the whole field of AI, and maybe even beyond that?
That's a great question. I mean, this research is already making waves in the AI community. For one thing, it could totally change how we design and train AI systems in the future.
In what way? Give me some examples.
Well, instead of just focusing on building these massive, all-encompassing LLMs, we might start to see a trend towards smaller, more specialized models that excel in specific areas.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So instead of one giant LLM that tries to do it all, we could have a bunch of smaller LLMs that are each really good at one specific thing.
Exactly. It's kind of like an AI app store. You could browse through and pick out the perfect LLM for whatever you need, whether it's writing marketing copy or analyzing financial data.
Oh, I love that idea, an AI app store. That's brilliant. So instead of relying on one giant jack-of-all-trades LLM, you could actually put together your own custom toolkit of specialized AI agents. That's super cool.
Right. And Self-MoA would be the key to making that whole system work. It would provide the framework for integrating all those different specialized LLMs, getting them to work together smoothly.
Yeah, we're not just talking about building better LLMs. We're talking about like mastering the art of AI orchestration, finding the right combination of models to achieve a specific goal. Man, the future of AI is looking pretty wild.
It is, and this whole approach could also address some of the concerns people have about AI, like its environmental impact.
Oh, that's right. I mean, training those massive LLMs take a huge amount of energy, right?
Yeah, it's a major energy hog. But if we shifted toward using smaller, more specialized models, we could potentially reduce AI's carbon footprint by a lot.
That's a big plus. Okay, but I want to go back to this quality over diversity idea for a minute. Do you think this is something we might see influencing other fields beyond AI?
It's definitely a thought-provoking concept. The research suggests that while diversity is still important, there are times when prioritizing the quality of individual contributions can lead to better overall outcomes.
You know what? That reminds me of this time I was putting together a team for a creative project. I initially went for diversity. I thought, oh, the more diverse perspectives, the better, right? But it actually ended up being really challenging to get everyone on the same page because everyone had such different approaches and skill levels.
I've been there. It can definitely be a balancing act.
It really can. And looking back, I actually think the project would have been more successful if I had just focused on finding a few highly skilled individuals who could really work well together, even if their backgrounds were similar.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it's not just about having lots of different voices in the room. It's about having the right voices, the voices that can really harmonize and create something amazing together.
Exactly. So it's about being mindful of the context and understanding when each approach might be more beneficial.
Right. Knowing when to go for diversity and when to prioritize quality, that's a valuable skill in any field.
This has been such a mind-expanding conversation. We've gone from the technical details of Self-MoA all the way to its potential impact on AI, the environment, even team dynamics.
I know. It just shows how these seemingly technical advancements can have ripple effects that reach far beyond the world of AI.
Totally. But before we get too philosophical, I do want to circle back to Self-MoA for a minute. Are there any downsides to this approach? Any limitations we should be aware of?
Of course, I mean, no approach is perfect, right? And the researchers themselves acknowledge that Self-MoA is not some magic bullet. One thing they point out is that simply adding more and more samples from the same model won't necessarily lead to infinite improvements.
Right, there's got to be a limit somewhere. It's like you can only squeeze so much juice out of a lemon before you're just left with pulp and seeds.
Haha, exactly. There's a point of diminishing returns. So more research is needed to figure out the optimal number of samples for different tasks and different types of LLMs. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay, so there's still some fine-tuning to be done, but even with those limitations, the potential of Self-MoA seems pretty huge. I'm really curious to hear your predictions for the future of this technology. Where do you see Self-MoA going in the next few years?
Ooh, predictions. Okay, let me gaze into my AI crystal ball here. I think we're on the verge of a major shift in how we approach LLM development. This research has opened up a world of possibilities, and I think we're going to see a ton of innovation in the coming years.
Okay, I'm always down for a surge in innovation, but can you get a little more specific? Like, what kind of advancements are we talking about?
Well, for one thing, I think we're going to see a move towards even more specialized and modular LLMs. Instead of trying to create one gigantic AI that can do it all, researchers and developers will start focusing on building smaller, more targeted models that excel in very specific domains. It'll be kind of like,
Like an AI app store. Did we just talk about that?
haha, yeah, we did. Great minds think alike, or maybe we're both just really tuned into the future of AI. But I really do think this AI App Store idea could be more than just an analogy. It could actually become a reality pretty soon. Just imagine browsing through this huge selection of LLMs, and each one is fine-tuned for a specific task.
So you could find one that's amazing at writing different kinds of creative text formats, and then another one that's perfect for crunching numbers and analyzing complex data, and maybe even LLMs that are specifically trained for different industries like healthcare or finance. It'd be incredible.
Exactly. And instead of relying on one giant LLM that's kind of okay at everything, you could assemble this dream team of specialized AI agents, each bringing its own unique expertise to the table.
It'd be like having this whole team of AI experts at your fingertips.
Right. And that's where Self-MoA would come in. It would provide that underlying framework for integrating all of these different specialized LLMs, allowing them to work together in a really coordinated and efficient way.
This is seriously blowing my mind. It sounds like Self-MoA could really democratize access to AI, like it could put these super powerful AI tools in the hands of people who might not have the resources to like build their own LLMs from scratch.
I think that's totally possible. As the tools and techniques for building and combining these specialized LLMs become more accessible and user-friendly, I think we could see this explosion of AI innovation coming from all these unexpected places.
I can already picture it. Students using Self-MoA to power their research projects, entrepreneurs building completely new businesses around specialized AI applications, maybe even artists using AI to create totally new forms of art and music.
The possibilities are endless. And, this shift toward more specialized modular LLMs, it could also help address some of the ethical concerns that people have about AI.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. How so?
Well, one of the big worries about these large general-purpose LLMs is that they can be prone to biases and sometimes even unpredictable behavior. Because they're trained on these massive data sets that reflect all sorts of societal biases, and it's really hard to completely control what they learn from that data and how they actually apply it.
It's like trying to teach a child about the world by just showing them random YouTube videos, right? You can't really control what they pick up from that.
Exactly. But with more specialized LLMs, you can be a lot more intentional about the data they're trained on and the specific tasks they're designed to do. And that could lead to the development of AI systems that are more transparent, more accountable, and more aligned with human values, which is really important.
That's definitely reassuring to hear. So it sounds like Self-MoA has the potential to not only make AI more powerful and efficient, but also like more trustworthy and ethical.
I really believe so. And, as this technology keeps developing, I think we're only going to see even more exciting and unexpressed applications emerge. We're really just at the beginning of this whole journey.
This has honestly been such an incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about Self-MoA, like how it works, its potential impact on AI development, how it could make AI more accessible to everyone, and even how it could make AI more ethical. My brain is buzzing with all these new ideas.
I know, right? It's been a blast exploring all these ideas with you. It's always so exciting to dig into these cutting-edge advancements and see how they could shape the future.
And I bet our listeners are feeling just as energized and inspired as we are. But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one final thought. We've talked a lot about the power of Self-MoA and its potential to totally revolutionize AI. But I think there's a deeper lesson here that we can all take away, a lesson that goes beyond just technology.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the big takeaway?
Well, throughout this whole discussion, we've been talking about this idea of quality over diversity. And while diversity is obviously super important, having different perspectives and all that, this research suggests that there are times when focusing on the quality of individual contributions can actually lead to even bigger breakthroughs. And I think that principle can apply to, well, just about any area of life.
I totally agree. Whether we're building teams, making important decisions, or just working on our own personal growth, it's always worth asking ourselves, when might it be more effective to prioritize quality over quantity or even over diversity?
Exactly. Sometimes the best approach is to identify those rock stars, those people or those ideas that are truly exceptional and empower them to shine. And on that inspiring note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. As always, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, check out the research we discussed, and stay curious. We'll see you next time.